Hello and howdy there, folks. A couple nights ago, I watched The Hole, the new film from Joe Dante. It wasn't actually direct-to-video. It did have a small theatrical release, and I do mean small. It came to, as far as I know, one screen in all of Los Angeles, but it did show in its 3D format. It was shot and filmed in 3D. The Downtown Independent Theater, right downtown, had it for, I think, 2 weeks, but I never got to it. So I did want to see it, so I rented it as soon as I saw that it was available. Basically because I love Joe Dante. I feel that he had a hand in my childhood. He touched me as a child. He did the Gremlin films. That's mostly what I'm talking about. He did Gremlins and Gremlins 2, the new batch. He also did, he's like the king of PG horror, maybe even PG-13. Back in his early days, as far as I know, his first film was Piranha. He did the original 1978 Piranha. He also did The Howling, which I have seen, but I don't really remember, or maybe I just didn't care for it. Let's see, he did Inner Space, Amazon Women on the Moon. What else did he do? Anyway, he's done, recently, right here on the box, says Small Soldiers. I'd say that may be his most recent high-profile work. Anyway, he makes scary movies for younger audiences. So before I even get to anything, I just want to say how ridiculous I feel that I even review, as a 34-year-old man, a film intended for 12-year-olds. So keep that in mind. If you have youngsters, then have them watch this, because it's, scary and it's intelligent, but it's for the younger set. So it teaches them, it shows them, the tricks of the genre, what am I trying to say? The trademarks of the horror genre. And it does it not in such a horrifying, gore-tastic way. But it's still very creepy. A couple instances I said, oh, that's awesome. So again, if I were 12, I would probably, kind of love this movie. But I enjoyed it. I think I'm going to give it a 6. I think a 6 is fine. I feel that, maybe 7. So that's my dividing line. 6 and 7. I think a 6 and below is something that I'm not going to recommend, or that I would just recommend to a certain audience. And that certain audience would have to be those with young kids who want to show their kids a scary movie and not have it worry about them being warped or traumatized by it. If you just don't want to show, gremlins. Okay, so the film is about a family moves into a new home, and in their basement of the new home they discover a hole. But it's covered up, with I guess a trapdoor, and it's got like 10 padlocks on it. And so, of course, naturally, when you find something in your new home that's got 10 padlocks on it, you're going to, try and open that no matter what, apparently, I guess. And so they do. It's a family. It's a mother and her 2 sons. You don't get to see the other one, but that's the older one, and there's a younger one. The one thing I like, and the one thing is also the one thing I do not like. And that's, you've got a whole bunch of new actors here. You know, this is filled with unfamiliar faces with the exception of Bruce Dern, who basically makes a bizarre cameo appearance. And yeah, so he's the only person you really know. Oh, and I guess he's pretty much been in every Joe Dante film. I don't know his name, but he's the neighbor in the Gremlins films. The war vet, the guy who has the bulldozer in his garage, or I think... anyway, again, I think he's in every Joe Dante film, and he's in this one as well. Though he has no lines. I don't know why they didn't let him say anything, but he's just kind of there. Anyway, all the actors are new, fresh faces, and, you know, they're young, so it's... like, some of the times the acting is you know, hammy, again, but it's kids, so I can't get, you know, too mad. They talk like kids, you know, it's refreshing to hear, you know, they say shit, you know, at some point in the film, but when they say shit, it's in a dire emergency situation, and even then, the little brother is like, you know, oh my God, you said shit. You know, you said a bad word. You know, so it's nice, being from a different generation than today's. It's nice to see that the language is not just filth, and that there is still a level of guilt when a child uses bad language, which, as far as I can tell, is disappearing in this day and age. So that's a nice touch, you know. They're kids, they talk like kids, they act like kids. I guess that is owed to the writing. So the kids discover the hole, and this lady right here, young lady, is their neighbor, of course, beautiful, popular, and they move in next door to her and sets up a little romantic storyline. So they all come over, they open the hole, they open the gate, which this movie is very much like The Gate, if you know that. Well, kind of. So when you look into the hole, it's an abyss. And as you know, when you stare into the abyss stares back into you. And it produces your greatest fear. If you look into the hole, something will come out of the hole, but it will be individualized and for you. And no one else can see it. No one else can really understand what you're going through, but you are being tortured by this darkness that has accessed your mind and knows what you fear most deeply. Then you must defeat it. You know, that's the rest of the film. The three kids defeating their greatest fears. And that's what you have to do when you gaze into the hole. So you should never gaze into the hole unless you want to go through a terrifying experience. You know, it was well directed. You know, Joe Dante, again, king of PG horror. Which, well, actually, this film was rated PG-13. And no, Gremlins wasn't. Gremlins was PG. But, you know, king of adolescent horror films. And I think this continues. You know, it's very suspenseful. It's atmospheric. Again, I think it's a great jumping off point for a young audience to learn about the genre of horror films. Let's see, I guess I could tell you who it was written by. Written by Mark L. Smith, a name I do not know. Directed by Joe Dante. Stars Chris Masolia, Haley Bennett, Nathan Gamble, and Bruce Dern, and Terry Polo. I guess I'm supposed to know Terry Polo. What do I know Terry Polo from? Anywho, again, a fine film. I'm not sure what else to say about it. But I love Joe Dante. He works in television most mostly now. But obviously he still does some films occasionally. But he's a director who's been working steadily since the mid-'70s, so I think that if he puts out a film, it's at least, worth your time. And again, the Gremlins films, when I was a kid, well, I loved them. If you're probably, 30 and up, probably from 30 to 40, the Gremlins are probably a part of your childhood. And you can thank Joe Dante for that. So, some of this stuff, dealing with the darkness, and they just call it the darkness, and whatever, facing the fears, it seems sometimes a little ridiculous. It doesn't seem to follow any kind of rule set. I guess not that evil has to, but, well, it just goes back to the Bruce Dern character. The Bruce Dern character just totally had me baffled. I think it was just something, take up a little time to get Bruce Dern in there, act, weird. But, things happened to him that, well, I guess he just never defeated his fear, I'll just leave it at that. So sometimes I was puzzled, but still, I'm sitting here talking about a movie aimed at a 12-year-old. So I enjoyed it for that aspect. I don't know what else to say. So I guess I'll just wrap it up. So that's Joe Dante's, it was shot and filmed in 3D. There is, obviously your home television system is not going to be in 3D if you're the average American, or human for that matter. So there's some playing to that 3D aspect, but not too much. But there is a little bit. And also, the youngest kid, his greatest fear is clowns. He has clownophobia. And so a clown chases him. And it's not that I'm afraid of clowns. I don't have that phobia. But I've always been unsettled by clowns. And they do a really good job at, if you have that thing about clowns, then you'll get creeped out here. Also, it dealt with some very adult topics, meaning child abuse. And I think that also thinking about that 12-year-old mindset, I think that's important. That you make a young person deal with adult topics, and it's not sugar-coated, it has truth in it. Again, it's a smart movie. So I think basically, will the average adult get much out of it? Yes, artistically somewhat. But I think if you have kids, and your kids like horror movies or want to know about horror movies, then I'd say The Hole is a great film for them to watch. So there you go. I give it a 6. Thank you very much.